the quiet town of Silver Creek, Oregon, had lived with a shadow for almost a decade. The disappearance of beloved schoolteacher Melissa Carter haunted everyone who had known her. Families warned their children not to walk home alone. Friends gathered every year to light candles and pray that one day the mystery would be solved. But it wasn't a detective who cracked the case. It wasn't a sudden confession or a tip from a stranger. It was a rescue dog named Buddy, whose unrelenting behavior led to a discovery that would finally bring Melissa home and expose a killer who had hidden in plain sight for years. Melissa Carter, 28, was a bright, compassionate woman who worked as a second-grade teacher. Her students adored her. Her colleagues said she had the rare ability to calm any child having a bad day. On the evening of June 12, 2013, she stopped at a local grocery store after work. The cashier remembered her smiling, buying a small bag of fruit and a bouquet of flowers. She was heading home, preparing for a weekend visit from her parents. But Melissa never made it. The next morning, her car was discovered on a logging road just outside of town. The driver's door was closed but unlocked. Inside were her phone, wallet, and the bag of fruit. The flowers lay wilted on the passenger seat. There were no signs of a struggle. No fingerprints that didn't belong. Nothing. Detective Laura Green, a young officer at the time, remembered arriving at the scene. It felt wrong from the start. Melissa wasn't the type to run away. Her car was neat. Her life was stable. But she was just gone. Search parties scoured the woods. Helicopters flew overhead. Divers checked nearby creeks and ponds. After weeks of searching, the trail went cold. Melissa's disappearance became the town's deepest wound. Melissa's boyfriend, Jason Reed, was questioned extensively. The two had argued a few days before she vanished, but Jason had been at work that night with dozens of co-workers able to vouch for him. There was no physical evidence connecting him to the crime. Police looked at co-workers, neighbors, anyone who might have had a grudge against Melissa. The leads dried up one by one. Some tips came in suggesting sightings of Melissa in nearby towns, but none were confirmed. Her family posted flyers and created a Facebook page dedicated to finding her, but years passed without progress. Eventually, the case was moved into the cold case unit, where it sat gathering dust, until something strange happened 10 years later. In the spring of 2023, Claire and David Harper bought the house Melissa had once rented. They were excited to start their new life there, along with their recently adopted Labrador mix, Buddy. Buddy was a lively dog, known for his curiosity, and the couple laughed at his playful antics. But soon, Buddy's behavior took a disturbing turn. Every night, he would run to the far back corner of the yard and begin to dig. At first, Claire and David tried to fill the hole and redirect him, but Buddy wouldn't stop. He became agitated whenever they tried to bring him inside, barking and whining until they led him back to the same spot. Claire later said, "I've had dogs all my life. I know when a dog is just being naughty and when something is seriously bothering them." Buddy wasn't just digging, he was desperate. After several weeks, David decided to see what Buddy was so interested in. He brought out a shovel and started digging. Just a few feet down, he struck something solid. At first, he assumed it was an old tree root, but as he cleared the soil, he realized it was bone. The couple immediately called the police. Detectives arrived, cordoned off the yard, and began a formal excavation. What they found was chilling: a human skeleton in a shallow grave. Personal items, including a necklace, were found buried with the remains. DNA testing confirmed the identity. The remains belonged to Melissa Carter. For Melissa's family, the discovery was devastating, but also brought a glimmer of closure. For 10 years, we didn't know where she was, her mother said tearfully at a press conference. Buddy gave us our daughter back. With Melissa's body recovered, the case shifted from a missing person to a homicide investigation. The autopsy revealed blunt force trauma to the head as the cause of death. This meant Melissa had been murdered the night she vanished. Detectives reviewed the old case files with fresh eyes. They noticed something they had previously overlooked. A neighbor named Carl Denton, who had lived next door to Melissa at the time of her disappearance. Denton had been questioned once in 2013 and claimed he hadn't seen or heard anything suspicious, but there had been minor complaint about him. loud arguments, property disputes, and an incident where Melissa allegedly caught him peeping through her windows. What raised red flags was that Denton moved away just 3 weeks after Melissa disappeared. At the time, this had seemed like coincidence. Now, it seemed like a possible cover-up. The grave held more than just bones. Investigators recovered duct tape fragments, bits of carpet fiber, and a small button that didn't match Melissa's clothing. Using modern forensic techniques, they were able to lift a fingerprint from the duct tape, and it matched Carl Denton. Detectives tracked Denton to Idaho, where he had been living under his real name, working as a handyman. They collected DNA from a discarded coffee cup, which matched samples taken from Melissa's clothing. This was enough to bring Denton in for questioning. At first, Denton was calm and denied everything. He claimed he had no idea Melissa had been buried in that yard. But as detectives laid out the evidence, the fingerprint, the DNA, the timing of his move, his composure cracked. After hours of questioning, Denton confessed. He admitted that he had confronted Melissa the night she disappeared. She had threatened to call the police after catching him watching her through the window, and in a panic, Denton attacked her. He said he didn't mean to kill her, but after she died, he buried her body in the backyard under cover of darkness. For 10 years, he had lived with a secret, believing no one would ever find her. Denton was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. At trial, prosecutors presented the forensic evidence, his confession, and testimony from neighbors who recalled his strange behavior after Melissa's disappearance. The jury deliberated for just a few hours before returning a guilty verdict. Denton was sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Melissa's family wept as the verdict was read. For years, we begged for answers, her father said outside the courthouse. Now we can finally let her rest. Buddy was hailed as a local hero. The community organized a small ceremony in the town square, where Melissa's parents personally thanked the dog and his owners. Detective Green later reflected, "I've worked on dozens of cases, but this one will stay with me forever. It shows that justice has a way of surfacing, even if it takes 10 years and the instinct of a dog." Melissa's grave now has fresh flowers placed on it every week, some of them brought by strangers who were touched by the story. Claire and David say Buddy still goes to the corner of the yard sometimes, but now he lies down quietly, as if he knows his job is done. This story is a haunting reminder that even the most carefully buried secrets can come to light, and that justice, no matter how delayed, can still be served.